This
You know, I
conference
reached out
will
to
now be
Kyle.
recorded.
What?
Oh, now I'm.
No.
Should I still ask you a question? Have you been saving the chat notes? Like
Yeah.
those?
Do you know how to do that?
I do, but I figured Kyle was doing that with my last meetings.
Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute. Good afternoon.
Hey, Jim.
Hello.
My chat window in my sessions have been very busy and super entertaining. They've been awesome.
I only open mine once in a while because I'm presenting and it blocks my screen because it's.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
And I was getting distracted.
Yeah, don't. I'll take care of the chat for you.
Good.
I sent out a reminder email, so people should be getting the link.
Hi, Angela.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good.
You look like you're enjoying the outdoors.
We have kids watching movies and a husband working, so I had to come outside. So
yeah, I had to change locations too.
Yeah.
I got kicked out of the. I set up early this morning on my husband's desk, which is in the dining room. We like moved the table over to the window and then put his office in there, and now I'm back in my office / bedroom.
Oh, there you go. That works.
Yeah. Laura, do you want us to get started right on time or wait a couple extra minutes for people to log in?
You got 12 people on here, so I'm just going to read it off really quick. We have Adam Lenz, our 14U commissioner, Angela Cherry from the NCWLO, the women's officials, also a Scorpions coach. And then I have caller 1, caller 2, then Connie Katie, our 810U commissioner, Connor Hoffman from Pleasant Grove, John Churchward, is Churchward or Churchward?
Ward.
Ward, okay, Churchward from Davis, Eric Voda from Folsom, Aaron, I have Jim Lardy from Granite Bay, Joel Wilkerson from Sacramento, John Eady from Napa, Kevin Brink from Santa Rosa, Kelly French from Pleasanton, Marina Stiles from Petaluma, Mark McIntyre, I don't know which club he's from, but he's on there, Phil Manoni from Walnut Creek, Scott Hackman from Fair Oaks, and I think, let's see, one more, Hetty Dawson from Sacramento, and Connor Hoffman, Pleasant Grove, Brian Frost from Pleasanton Pride. So if I did not call your name, you must be caller 1 or caller 2. Say your name.
Yeah, it's probably Melissa Dunlap from
Whoa. We did not get any of that. Do you want to put it in the chat?
Dialed in, so I can't.
Oh, who is it again?
It's Alyssa Dunlap, MA Grizzlies.
Alyssa.
Sorry.
I got you. Okay. Okay, is anybody else calling in?
That's Mark McIntyre.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Aaron. We are recording, everybody.
Okay. All right. It says you're presenting, Laura.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
A minute. Here we go. Hello. Okay. So welcome to the girls rep session of the NCJLA summer workshop. Here's our agenda. We're going to aim to spend approximately 10 minutes per topic and stay on schedule. Any topics that need a significant amount of additional time, we'll notate that and we will address outside of the workshop. We want to hear your feedback, but also you can include any of your comments or questions in the chat box. You can raise your hand if you can't get a hold of us. Well, I think Laura might be watching you as well. So if you have any technical difficulties, we definitely want to hear your feedback and give you that opportunity. So let's get started. I'm just resharing the screen just to make sure everyone is on this call. Maybe you haven't been on any of the other calls today, that we want to get your feedback. We're making any decisions today. We're listening to each other and taking constructive feedback so that the board can take your recommendations and make adjustments as needed for the coming season. So the following slides, there's about 3 or 4 of them, are about officials regarding training, rating, assigning, and are meant to provide you with information to educate you in order to discuss the league's challenges and needs to get your feedback. This chart shows 2 things: how officials are assigned based on their qualifications and the differences between USL divisions and the JLA divisions, and how it affects our rules of play and our modifications. So take a look, and if you have any questions about this slide, we can always go back to it if needed, but if anything pops up right now, feel free to ask any questions. This next slide is illustrating how adults are certified, called level 1, 2, or 3, and they're based on competency. The slide or the graphic shows you a little description of what each of them means. And the NCJLA has a modification which would be full checking, must have adult signed regardless of the age level of game. So we're looking for adults, even if they are a level 1, they're a beginner, they're a grown up. So that's sort of our modification. If you guys could mute yourselves, unless you have a comment, please do so. There's some feedback. Thanks. So here's a graphic on how our junior officials are qualified. So all juniors are under 18 years of age. They are in high school equivalent. They get rated each and every season, and when they do get rated, they are qualified to officiate on a youth level game where the participants are 2 years younger than the official. So high school games, they are not qualified because they are in high school. So it's not a youth game. It's not considered a youth game. It's considered a scholastic game. 14U, they're qualified according to US Lacrosse for games. They have to be 16 years or older to do a 14U game. And for 12U, qualified and at least 14 years old, and 10U, 14 years or older. So usually by the time, most officials are 15 by the time they are officiating spring lacrosse. There are exceptions, and the USL rule is 14, but I think we are mostly, you'll see it later in the slide that, or I think maybe in the regional slides, it said 15. I think there's like a, I don't know, a little play there, but we're looking for high school kids. So the feedback we got for 14A from coaches is, why can't we follow full checking or transitional checking for 14A? So the feedback we got from the NCWLO is that there are not enough officials to provide according to the rules. The intensity of play this season was not affected by doing modified checking. The games were overall safer with less injury reports and penalty cards. Modified checking was overall successful in 2020 when one adult was paired with one junior, which is what we have to do for 14U because we don't have enough adults in the regions to put 2 adults on every game for full checking or for 14A. The feedback from the Rules Committee is that we will continue to support the NCWLO's recommendations. Modified checking will continue at all 14U levels. 14A teams will have the option to have full checking if each team meets recruiting goals. And assigning should be according to the USL standard published by USL Officials Development, and that transitional checking risks outweighed the benefits. And that's why they still continue to not adopt transitional checking. The next informational slide, and I'm trying to get through these. If you have questions, I'm in. Is that our actual roster?
I do have a question.
Sure.
So I don't know quite what all the slides look like, and when is the proper time to have the discussion about full checking at 14A, or maybe this isn't the right time. Is it? Because again, I'm not sure how your slides all progress, but like I would like to see full checking at 14A, and then if this is a good time to have that discussion. So I do understand and appreciate that there aren't enough officials. I mean, I'm an official myself, and I understand that there are problems with the numbers, but I also understand that, or my thought on this is that I think the 14A level, that subset of girls and that subset of coaches who coach at the 14A level are uniquely suited to be teaching those players how to properly check. If it's not our problem in the spring, or if we're saying it's not, do we have a duty? Where else are these girls supposed to learn how to do proper full checking? Because if we just assume that they move on to high school and then somehow magically they're learning how to do it there, I would argue that, if you look across the board with the experience level of many high school coaches, we just can't assume that they're learning how to do proper full checking there. I mean, obviously full checking is happening. That's how the game is played. But who is teaching them that? And so I would say that in our league in the spring, those relatively smaller number of girls, relatively smaller number of coaches with that kind of experience would be the perfect place to have full checking. And with those girls knowing how to do it would be very helpful then when they move on to high school. So I don't know if others have ideas about that.
Thank you, Connie. Well, we definitely want more comments, but I do want to reiterate that the feedback is that we will have 14A checking. We do want 14As to have that option for sure. So it's just that, like, making sure we have the personnel to follow the rules and not put, so 14A following full checking is high school rules. So our juniors are not rated on those games. So that's, I think, the imbalance of the process. So there are slides coming up talk about like ideas, like let's get some really good feedback on mitigating the problem, which is recruiting more adults within your neighborhoods, your clubs, and figuring out how to solve this problem by doing it the right way. And no, I haven't heard anyone ever oppose your point, Connie, at all, which is that those girls who the cream of the crop 14A aren't capable, or their coaches aren't capable of doing it. It's more of the following the rules that are set by the officials organizations and the governing body of U.S. Lacrosse, and that we're doing our due diligence with following those guidelines. So we can continue to have comments about the reasons behind why we have and want full checking at 14A, but I think what I really want to dive into is getting your feedback on how you as clubs can help recruit. So I just wanted to show you this graphic of like who we have right now as our juniors. So I'm going to start with the juniors. We had 98 juniors total in the NCJLA that were trained and rated to officiate lacrosse. We had 23 new freshmen. We had 23 sophomores, 20 juniors, and 32 seniors, which unfortunately we will lose all of them when they move away and go to college. Maybe some will stay around, which would be nice, but we can count on most of them moving or being too busy to continue to do officiating while they're in college. So the next part would be where they live and where they're officiating. So you can see that our Southwest region seems to have a lot less as a whole. So we definitely need stronger recruiting efforts coming from the Southwest region to help fill in those needs for our junior officials, which we do need lots of them to cover our 14B games, our older juniors and seniors, and then our freshmen and sophomores filling in for those 10Us and 12U games. And here's another graphic that talks about how many adult officials we had on the roster this season who were working for the NCWLO and who were being assigned to NCJLA games. So we had 85. These numbers are going to be explained in this graphic. And this is another kind of cool point, we have officials ranging from 18 years old to 85. And the average age was 42, but I would say we had a whole lot of officials in 50s, 60s, and we want to keep recruiting more of and bringing up our juniors into the young adult age range. But what I found very interesting in the data was that the Central West region, we have 32 officials that live in the Central West region, but they actually officiate most of the time in other regions. And that's because they go from work to the field and then they go home. There's lots of different reasons why people don't officiate in the same region where they live. But I just wanted to show you that there's getting officials to sign up for your club, for your needs, who live in your area, that work for you is so important. And these are the reasons why. Our officials are independent contractors who make their own hours, they work on their own terms, and travel as far and as frequently as they choose. They also choose the leagues that they work for, and the NCWLO services other leagues other than the NCJLA. So there are many leagues in Northern California that the officials are assigned to that work for NCWLO. So we've got our CIF, which is our high school league, our WWLL, which is the club league, and then we even have officials in the Northern California who also do NCAA games. And all of those games require adults. So on top of that, many lacrosse officials also officiate other sports. They work several nights a week, and sometimes they just don't want to work on the weekends, where we have a lot of our NCJLA games are on Saturdays and Sundays. So there's that work-life balance. It's a huge factor. And so the more officials the NCJLA clubs have working for them, it works better for everyone. So who is needed? We need adults 18 years and up for our high school and our 14A programs. We need juniors, 14 to 18-year-olds, and we want you to look at these specific areas, like they live and work near you. They're physically capable. They like kids. They will work your home games, and you've discussed that with them directly, that you recruit directly for you guys. Even though once they've got all your games and know when to come, that they're also in the system and can be assigned if they want to other games on other dates. So they dedicate themselves to you first, and if they want to make more money and want to travel and do other games, that's okay too. So I've just listed a couple of ideas here on this slide of people to ask. And then some other staff suggestions are here listed on the right. That the main thing I would say is that now is the time. Over the summer, early fall, because education starts in November and February, and they have to be trained and educated before they can get a rating. So that's why the summer is so important. We also really suggest that you guys get a crew. Don't just rely on one person. Let all your parents know that you need help, or come up with a game plan and make it at the towards the top of your list for what you do in the summer. As always, we recommend that you offer financial support in some way, or financial incentives. If you can get your parents to do it, then maybe they can get a reduction on their player fees or their volunteer hours. And let them know who to contact. Send out that information soon. So here's a graphic. We want you to join the team. So please chime in with your feedback. I'd love to know what ideas you have, or what's worked for your club, or what you're planning to do to try to get these officials for your clubs for the next coming season.
Can I just chime in before the clubs do? This is Laura. There's a real concern when we're talking about COVID-19 and some of the restrictions that your public health officials are saying for your county. There's a real concern about having officials travel out of area, out of their county or out of their city to go work multiple games with kids that are running around and doing stuff. Now there's a lot of different data on, well, it won't hurt anything, or they could wear a mask, or this, that, or the other. The fact of the matter is we have an aging officials population, and many of them, I wouldn't want to put a mask on while they're running. I'll just be honest. I'm concerned for their health if we do that. So, and the other piece is, their job may not have them commuting to work anymore, where, we may not have somebody who's working Saturdays in San Jose in the office and can pick up some games in the San Jose area on their way home. They may still be living in Walnut Creek and are like, no, I'm not going to San Jose anymore. So outside of, the NCJLA or the officials organization, there may be factors that prevent us from sending officials to you. So, it's a pretty big concern. We're really worried about that.
Laura, I also want to jump in here. So this is Angela Cherry. I'm the NCWLO president. I do want to jump in and just say that some of our adults also choose not to officiate higher level games. Some of them stay with 12U and 10U based off of their own health, their own running capabilities. So just keep in mind when you're recruiting, we love to have every single adult, but also it's okay to ask them, if they're willing to do 14 level games. That's because that's, we're looking for adults for all levels of our youth games. But at the same time, we do have a couple officials that do just want to do 10U or 12U games and not do, 14 level games as well. So there are all these options up there. But if you would like to proceed with the full checking, it's the officials that want to get on the field to do those upper level games as well. So I just want to throw that out there, that even though the number based off of how many adults we did have, there are a lot of those officials who just stuck with 10U games as well. So.
Hi, this is Phil from Walnut Creek. I think for the clubs, I'm speaking for our club. The biggest thing is anxiety of going out there and doing it. And is there a way for, like, we run fall balls, for the association to come out where we can recruit parents and high school, teams or players to come to kind of like a tri-lax thing, but like a tri-umpire thing, to see what the mechanics are behind becoming an official, instead of, so they can really feel what it's like with the background of, like, maybe refereeing a fall ball game, or something that I think would kill the anxiety for some of these people to actually come out and try it.
Sign me up, Phil. I'll help you.
Yeah, I like that idea too. I think it's sort of like the way you recruit coaches. You kind of have to twist their arm and trick them a little bit, like get them out on the field and, can you hold this whistle? If they do this, blow the whistle. I think as an official myself, I find it just really rewarding as a form of, physical exercise just by itself. And, some people aren't suited for it, so you do have to keep that in mind. But to offer opportunities like you're saying, Phil, is really a really, really fantastic idea to make it part of another event. Or maybe offer incentives like, hey, you get this free club t-shirt if you come down here and try to officiate. Like physically recruit like someone in the crowd that looks like you could probably handle it.
And relatedly,
go ahead.
Thanks. And relatedly to what Phil's saying and some of the other ideas, having thought about this topic for a while and over the years, I was with Scorpion for quite a number of years as a board member and a coach and so on. And now I'm at Folsom, and I'm on their board. And I think we're, we really need to assign somebody at the club to be in charge of recruiting officials, because so often at the club level, it's just sort of like the president doesn't think it's his or her job, or the some other board member doesn't think it's his or her job, and like the A team coach doesn't think it's his or her job. Nobody really thinks it's her job, or so maybe like at the clubs that are more well established, I know this would be asking a lot of a brand new club. I mean, I get that. But the clubs that are more well established, and there's plenty of them, like this needs to be assigned to be somebody's task to really be actively recruiting and to have like either kind of a measure of success or not success. Like I got X number of people to try it or to get trained and they did X number of games, or because I just feel like what really happens probably at most clubs is just each person, each board member, each coach thinks it's somebody else's problem and somebody else's job. So even when we say we have a policy of like every club or every A team is supposed to put forth an adult official, I think about 0 gets done. And it's not because people don't care, they care. But there isn't like the one person at any given club or team that really thinks it's his or her job. So I feel like we need to work on that part. And I don't think that's unreasonable, considering how this has been a problem for a long time. I don't think it's unreasonable then to have somebody assigned. And like when it's assigned to you, now you're like, oh, holy shit, it is my job and I'm going to really do something about it. So I just think we need to take a different approach to this, probably on the club level.
That's a good idea, Connie.
I agree, Connie. I think the biggest thing is the anxiety, because most of the adults in this area, like on the West Coast, lacrosse isn't, people didn't play lacrosse in high school. And I think the biggest thing for adults around here is I don't want to screw up or I don't want to do this. And so we have to learn how to take that anxiety out of the equation. And I think you'll get more reps that way.
So Phil, I think it's a great comment. And so that's why 8U, I think 8U coaches are one of the best people to look at too, because they have to ref their own games. And so maybe if there's a parent volunteer in your club or any club that wants to maybe step in at an 8U game, it's a great starter game to to get people into what it's like, because you are working with the younger crowd and you're getting them to, it's a lower level type of lower level anxiety. I mean, you're still, anytime someone steps on the field, there's always butterflies, there's always nerves, but at least the 8U game, you're kind of what you're looking for. And so those 8U coaches are kind of those individuals that are already willing to step on the field to not only coach but also ref those games. And so that's just an idea, suggestion too, is to maybe afterwards look at those coaches and say, hey, are you willing to take it a next step level? Or if there's a parent volunteer who wants to step up on the field too to try out an 8U level game just to see what it's like is something that I'd suggest as well. But I do love your idea. I'm just going to parrot Laura. We'd love to try that out and get that going for anybody. And if any club needs anyone to come and talk to them about recruiting or any parent session, please feel free to reach out to me. I offered that up earlier in the year, and I'm always available to come down and talk to your clubs to get any information I can for you, to come out and try officiating. It's a lot of fun, and I thoroughly enjoy it. So.
I just had an idea. So I'm looking at this picture that you put on the slide, Aaron. I don't know if you guys know some of these officials that are on here, but the guy in the top left-hand corner with the sunglasses, that's Paul Heathcote, and in the bottom right corner is Greg Amazu. Now, both of these guys work for some big organizations that they actually get community credit for their service to officiating. And so we actually found them by sending stuff to the business, and the business actually said, hey, if you guys want to earn some community service for the company, these are ways that you can do it, and officiating was one of them. So if your club is, already running low on volunteers, this might be a method to use, and, we're happy to connect you with both Greg and Paul and let you know how their organizations got them involved. Because those two are just awesome rock stars, and they work a ton of games. So, and their companies love that they do it. So that might be an avenue if you're running low on volunteers already.
Okay. Well, I put this presentation together for you because I felt like over the last 2 years with my involvement with the league that I knew this was always something that was needed and that clubs were being asked to recruit. And I got a lot of questions like, why do we have to do this? Why is it on us? Why isn't it the officials organization? And it's just because it's just a huge, huge amount of people that we need to make it all run smoothly, and for all sorts of reasons, health benefits. Some people don't want to officiate every year because maybe they are taking a sabbatical to have a baby, or maybe they blew out their knee, or they have all sorts of reasons. So as we see our officials community shrinking that aren't necessarily affiliated with the NCJLA, we just really want to push this a little harder to explain the why and give you guys as many tools as we can to help make this easier for you, so that come registration time, you've got maybe a list of names that want to officiate some games this season. Perfect. So we'll move on. So some more feedback from the season was concerning our 12U and 14U rookie format. Suggestions were that we go to a 77 with a goalie or a similar small-sided format. So any feedback or questions about this? How do you feel about it? Is this something that you'd want? Would this help you field teams? And also, would this would be for the regular seasons or COVID? Sure.
Hey, yeah, this is Robin from Livermore, and yes, 7v7 would be great for us. You know, we're still trying to bootstrap our program, and getting enough kids has been a challenge. And, you know, we lost out on our first season this year, so those girls who come back are going to now be 12U. And so throwing them out on a, you know, full field would be a challenge. So this would be great for us.
Kim here from Coyotes. I completely agree as well. We usually have the numbers, but in terms of the ability, I think those, especially at 12U, is a time where we get a lot of new players. And I think the full field, I mean, US Lacrosse, I think their guidelines are ideally if we could all have like a 60%, 75% field length to a full field. That's what they recommend for that age group. That's not realistic. But I think if we could go 7v7, it would help them get the skills that they need. I think what happens is it would just, you know, it's just too big of a field and they can't catch and throw. And so it doesn't even look like lacrosse, and you give it to one athlete to run down the field. And that's kind of what California lacrosse is starting to look like, rather than the passing and catching game.
Only concern I would have is some field lining and all of that stuff to jump through hoops to make that happen. And the benefit certainly outweighs the cost of doing that, but some flexibility there on how we can mark fields without having to repaint everything.
This is Alyssa from Menlo Appleton. Can you explain what you mean by that? By what you just said?
So all of our fields in town are lined specifically to the 120 or the 110 universal field. And if we have to somehow create an arc and things like this on a smaller field to play 7-on-7, that's going to be difficult to put permanently onto those fields. So, you know, if someone comes up to play us and we don't have a field that is marked appropriately, what do we do in that situation? Throw out cones? I don't know.
Thank you.
Well, I think it would be, I mean, our 10U is 7v7 and we use cones. And so I think it would have to just be set up like 10U.
I agree, Kim. I think that would be the goal. Like, obviously, if you have the ability to paint additional goal circles and 8 meters and have something indicating a center line, that would be the main goal, the lines that you would need. And for our rules, for NCGLA modifications, we do allow cones, and that's to just, you know, so continue to play and not have those constraints in play.
There's a question in the chat about whether they could choose to be 7v7 or 12v12 at the rookie level. Just looking at our league and the logistics and some of you guys trying to schedule one another, I think it has to be either or. You know, trying to match that up. Most certainly, I think if you have a discussion before you schedule each other and you say, hey, you know, we really prefer to play, you know, 7v7, is that okay with you? I think that's fine. We want to encourage clubs to have that communication. But I think from the league level, we gotta decide what we're going to go with, because giving that either or would just cause confusion.
We go into the 7v7 format, alleviate referees as well, because it'd be one less referee.
It depends on the level of the referee. If it's an adult like me or Angela, yeah, just be one person. But you know, if it's a junior and it's their first year, we really don't want to put them out there by themselves. But most certainly, it could save on officials' costs. Yeah. I want to reinforce that as long as. Ooh, somebody's talking, but it's very low. I don't know who that is. Is that Connor?
I have one like idea, but it could just make it complicated and hard to implement. But if the idea is kind of to, most of these rookie kids are new to the sport. So the idea is to teach them and give them the confidence and then transition them onto hopefully a veteran or an A team or a high school team. Is it something where we could say like specific dates, like the first half of the season is 7v7 as they're all learning to catch and throw. And as a league, we commit to that. And then after April 15th, for the last month, we move to 12v12. So they learn that and then they're ready. I think I'm just always thinking like, gosh, when you see these kids in February and you're teaching them and you have your first game in like 3 weeks, you're like, oh my God, in that full field, it's just, there's so much to learn. And you just want them to feel confident.
Again, I think, I don't know. I'd be wary of that. Ken.
Yeah. I would be wary of switching the format halfway through the season as well. So I'm here representing Pleasant Grove. My name's Connor. I don't have much experience in the girls' side of lacrosse, so forgive me if any of this is ignorant in that regard. But I'm just thinking if we do a 7v7 format and we're able to eliminate refs, would that cut costs to the clubs, therefore cutting costs to the registration of our players? Because that might help in attracting more players into the sport at a younger age, and that's something that I think is really important, possibly.
Right. So if you look at our team registration for 10U, it is considerably less.
Right. I guess I was more saying for the 14.
Right. So yeah, of course, if you guys are going to a smaller format, less kids, we need different size venues for that. I think that's reasonable to expect. And I don't think the board would want to charge you. I mean, there would be no, yeah.
So I personally think, I know that our club has a tough time with getting girls to come play. I don't know if it's a financial burden or a financial reason per se, but I think that I like the idea, I guess is what I'm saying. I think it would help bring more people at a younger age into the sport and help the sport grow, especially in an area like Elk Grove, for example. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, it's Jim Lardy from Granite Bay here. My 2 cents on this one is I think it makes sense at the 12U level. I question it at the 14U level. Many of those girls are going to be going on to high school, and I think it's important that they get used to the larger field, number one. And number two, some of those girls that may be 14U rookie, they may have a couple of years of experience. They may not be new to the game, but it just, that's where the numbers fell. So you could have a handful, you could have 6 girls on a team that have played a couple of years that are 14U rookies, and now they're on a 7v7. So I think, like I said, I think 12U makes sense. I think 14U, in my opinion, would be you keep it on a larger field.
I think I agree with that, because if you think about a lot of 14U programs, if you have many clubs have 2 teams, not many more than that. That's probably average, I would think. Is that right, Laura? If you are registering like average of all the clubs, you have 2. So you have an A level, most likely, or a BV, whatever, and then you have a rookie. That top team is often travel club players, right? And so if you're not a travel club player, but you've been playing lacrosse for a while, but you're just not, frankly, a year-round player, so you're not good enough to make it, you'd be kind of frustrated on a 7v7. And plus the girls are bigger. Most of them have gone through puberty, so they can, run longer and farther. I think it's 12U, these little teeny 10-year-old, 11-year-old girls on a full field. It almost looks like mean.
Yeah. I think that's why US Lacrosse did develop those rules for 12U to be small-sided, because they recognize that exact situation. So it sounds like you guys are in favor of this for 12U. Is that a good, raise your hand or chime in? You know, regardless of COVID-19, is this something that will help you grow your clubs? Will this get more kids involved, and, you know, all those barriers that are specific to girls, would this help? Only
Yes.
at the rookie.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes for
Okay.
Livermore.
I would hope so.
All righty. Well, I mean, there's still the option that if you go be veteran, you know, you would have the full size. So I want to make sure that's clear. This is only those those brand new kids that have never seen lacrosse before. Emily put in the chat from Berkeley. She said, especially in light of COVID concerns, seems like 7-7 across the board and 12U might make sense. So thanks, Berkeley. And it looks like Livermore is in favor as well. All right, Erin.
All right, feedback from the season for 10U. Why is the NCJLA all set up differently from the 10U USL rulebook? So basically, we did this to offer more opportunities for draw controls while still following the 1v1 ground ball rule, because we decided to do that 4-quarter format. So when you add the 2 midfielders into the midfield, you're just now 3 girls from each team have the opportunity to get that 1v1 ground ball off of the center draw, as opposed to it always being, you know, that same center who, you know, gets the chance. So instead of having 2 girls only per draw, we figured this would give more opportunities. Now, this setup has been used in years past, even through US Lacrosse. They changed it, they took it away. So I really liked it once upon a time. So I proposed it to the Rules Committee and it passed. So that is why it was modified. So club feedback and suggestions. Well, one more point is, when the draw happens and the black team gets it, then the center and the middies attack their goal, and now all 5 are already on their way. As opposed to, you've got that one other defender who's waiting until the draw happens to kind of tag along down the field and come on over after her team gets it. So that's the other benefit to having the middies already there at the center line. So once it's decided upon who gets it, now the attackers and the defenders inside the 8 still have to restrain until possession is granted. So that's why. That's the explanation for that modification. Any club feedback or suggestions for change for 2021?
Yeah, I have a comment on that regarding the 10Us. So I wasn't sure what that was going to look like with having the goalie start the ball and have fewer draws. But I thought it was awesome because, again, even if you have 2 10U teams that are pretty different in ability level, it does assure that the team with less skill is getting to touch the ball on a regular basis, which when you're doing a center draw, and if one of the teams is dominant, then the less dominant team is hardly ever touching the ball. So I really like that change. I really, really like that change. And I think more kids are touching the ball, more kids are like trying to pass, and they're playing the game. The center draw is important, but there are some opportunities to do the draw with the 4 quarters. So it's not like it's been taken out entirely. I think it just shifts the focus to the more important skills, like getting girls to work together as a team and move the ball up the field. And I think at the 10U level, and I've been coaching 10Us for quite a number of years now, I really love that change more than I thought I would. And I would like to keep the rules as we had it set for the 2020 season.
Okay, well, I want to chime in really quick. I don't have a slide for it per se. I have this slide, and then my next slide is talking about the uncontested or free clear. But what you're talking about, Connie, is basically the other rule that we adopted this year, whereas we modified it in previous years. So This is the USL rule, which we adopted this year as written in the rule book, as opposed to if you were around last year or the year before, after a goal was scored, we had them bring the ball back to the center and redraw after every goal, unless there was a differential, which is according to USL recommendations. So one of the uncontested clear rule was not clear of how to implement it, and that was both on the team level and maybe so even with officials. Not quite sure if the officials want to chime in on this. So I can take feedback on either afterwards, but I'll just kind of go over this one really quick. So uncontested was meant to replace the word free as stated in the USL rulebook. On the NCJLA rule sheet, we wrote it as the uncontested clear. So this is the interpretation. So after the red team scores a goal, the goalie has the ball in her goal circle, and the game has essentially stopped until the red team clears above the 8-meter line. So there's kind of like and they have to clear out. The official should be responsible for having the defense clear the 8-meter, and I put a line there. It's imaginary. It's but it's at least above the 8-meter, so the goalkeeper has space, and any of her teammates may be anywhere in the space below or above. And so then the black team's goalkeeper may now make a clearing pass to her teammate who is below the 8-meter or above if she wants to, and she still has to follow the 10-second goal circle clearing rules. The red team's defenders are released once the ball crosses the 8-meter, or is it possessed by the black team? So does that clear up the questions of what uncontested means?
I think that's great, Erin. I hadn't seen this diagram before, and I think, like you had suggested, there was confusion both for officials and for players and for coaches on what the uncontested clear meant, but here it is very nicely described and diagrammed, and I think people can get that once it's just cleared up.
And just to echo that, this is Casey, and there was a lot of questions about this on the play date, and like Connie said, it was referees and coaches. You know, we were under the understanding from the referees that the attack team had to be inside the 8-meter, and the defense just had to be outside. And then it was a question of, is it when the goalie throws the ball that the team could go down, or possession? You just said that it had to be above the top of the 8-meter. Or is it when they have possession, even if they're behind the goal? So I'm still not clear on that. I do like it. And I want to say, too, going back to the other rule of having all 3 middies at the line is a huge improvement from last year. So I'm glad that adjustment was made. But if you could clarify that one piece on the goalie clear, when the defensive team could come in and redefend, at what point is that allowed? I'm still a little unclear, even based on this.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to use like pin. I don't even know if I can use it. But
and really the question is it when the girl on the attacking team possesses the ball, even if she's behind the goal, or do you need to be above the top of the 8-meter arc? So it's like, which one is it? Or is it?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because I think if Angela knows for sure, and I went to the rules interpretation at Western Regionals, I've watched all the videos and they did not clarify this. So I'm going by the rule book to how I interpreted it. And I think I slightly maybe missed the, like, that's why I have this like question mark here, down here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have this, the line, I think could either be interpreted as this, or I would, as a coach and someone who's facilitating, I've watched this happen, and it was a nightmare, because as soon as the goalkeeper passes a little kid inside the 8, which is tiny, and then she drops it, the defense scoops it up and shoots it, and it's like 2 seconds later, it's like, oh,
right,
that just happened.
Exactly.
So if I like my interpretation, but I don't know if there is room for this to be something where we modify it to this as the NCJLA, or we try to go back and get more clarification from the person who wrote the rule in the first place.
One thing that we were planning on doing, Erin, I will share because it was very unclear, is just, again, it's just going back to communication with the other coach. Like, let's make sure we're on the same page about how we coach our teams. So each team, especially the team clearing the ball, has a fair opportunity to get it out of their zone. So just even communication with the coach and the ref before a game, because that was some of the inconsistencies too, even at the play date, is in one game it was being like it was just being misconstrued, even ref to ref, coach to coach. So yeah, I think getting clarity on that would be great, but I think we would still need to make sure we're clarifying it with the ref and the opposing team as well.
Is there one that
So,
you guys would prefer? I mean, 'cause
Yeah,
we
I
can take
I think it would be a clarification of what you guys would want as a league, of how you would want to proceed.
And I will say it's tricky to answer that. Someone might have a good idea, but since we really didn't get to play it out this season to see like what was good about it and what was tricky, it's hard to give that feedback because we only had the play date. So if anyone had any other games and experienced this a little bit more, it'd be good to hear what you thought would work best.
I mean, this is Brian at Pride. I feel like, Erin, if you just kind of delete that question mark where you have that red circle at the bottom, I think that would work. So either I don't think that the other team should be released if the goalie makes a pass and that pass is dropped and still behind the 8-meter line. That seems to defeat the purpose of the uncontested clear. So I would say, similar to a draw, either there's possession by someone other than the goalie, or the ball crosses that 8-meter line.
So the actual 8-meter line versus like that.
Well, yeah,
line
8-meter extended. I actually like the 8-meter extended the way it's in this picture right here. So I think that again, with the goal being give the team that's clearing the ball some space to work with before they face opposition. That seems to give them the most opportunity to make a pass, start to make a move, look for a teammate to do something with the ball.
Yeah. I mean, I can see some people might not think this is good because developmentally, well, they're going to learn a whole different scenario in 12U because they will have to clear it with defense on them. But at least, I think that's why that one person, maybe the interpretation of the USL rules is one attacker should probably just stay in the 8. Her defender waits outside the 8. She gets to have a free catch, and then she exits the 8-meter. Developmentally, I think that gives that one step. But with this illustration, we're providing a lot more space to, decide where they're receiving the ball. Okay. Yeah.
Erin, I agree. I agree. I'm thinking of having all 3 attackers down there. It's kind of after coaching 12U now for a couple of years, it's a challenge I have to get these kids to go upfield and be the next layer and think of layers in terms of cutting. So maybe just having one attacker down there and the other 2 attackers have to be past the 8-meter.
Yeah.
I do think that this is Andrea Lynn of Scorpion Lacrosse. I do think the issue of that possession and whether that's defined or not as a criteria is pretty critical. They implemented something very similar to this in youth soccer, and frankly, aggressive teams could completely manipulate it. So anyways, for lacrosse's purpose, I think whether there's a catch and a drop, I just think that could be manipulated with the wrong intent of what this is trying to do. So I'm just trying to be mindful of those details.
So like defining what possession means.
Yeah, it should be possession. Kind of
I
like
mean,
possession on the draw. When we have possession on the draw, and at the beginning of a game, and the official calls possession, that should be possession by the receiving attacker.
right.
And so if they don't make the catch, they still have time to pick it up off the ground, and at that point there's a release of the defense.
But the official's not actually going to call possession.
No, I mean, from a coaching, I mean, coaches need to just tell their players to get downfield and get ready for defense. That's in my opinion. That I don't think that's what's happening.
So do you guys think that maybe having only that one attacker being allowed to be down below the 8 as opposed to anybody, or?
I think that's too much detail, though. I mean, I agree with you, Kim Pepper, that we want to encourage just one receive in this situation at 10U. You want to teach the girls to have one girl who's receiving the ball. Everyone else is getting ready for the next pass, right? For the next cut and pass. I think if we build that into the rule, and then coaches are looking to the officials to enforce, like those attackers need, it's just too many layers for the officials. I think that should be a coaching point, not something that the officials have to enforce.
So this rule's implemented when the score's lopsided, like 4-0 or something?
No,
this is the rule at all times.
Maybe it's just instituted when the score's out of control. I mean, if two teams are evenly matched, maybe they should be playing by the regular rules if they're capable. But this is meant to give a team that's overmatched a chance to clear the ball, right?
Well, the U.S. lacrosse rule is that it's an uncontested goalie clear. And so it's just not further defined by U.S. lacrosse. So as the NCGLA, we're trying to further define it. But it is not a mercy rule. It is a rule that's in place at all times during the 10U game.
Okay.
And we did actually implement a mercy rule for this 10U rule, which would be that if the goalkeeper just can't clear it, and the defense, as soon as she runs out of the 8, the other team, she drops it, the other team gets it, and they score again. And now there's a goal differential, and it's clearly because the goalkeeper and that attackers can't clear the ball by a pass, that we tried to implement, we put it on the rule sheet that it would just be possession to the closest attacker, and they would just get to have an indirect, free position.
Erin, I just want to say, there's some stuff in the chat, but
yeah, I agree with this.
A girl who is, 10 years and under trying to clear a ball with a goalie stick, even if it's youth size, is so daunting. I've seen some of these kids that are in the goalie gear that can barely see outside the helmet and the gloves and the whole 9 yards. And so this rule is not only to John's point, it's not a mercy thing, but it's really designed to give the goalies a role at this level in the game. They're not like the boys where, they're all ready to be the goalie and they're, down to make the save. So this is kind of giving those girls a role in the game, because one of the trends that we see at this level is you have a girl who is physically advanced. That girl will just go back there, scoop up the ball, and then run it down the field. And that goalie never gets a chance really to participate in the game except being a target. She's target practice, And so I want you guys to keep in mind that the goalie being allowed to throw the ball with nobody else interfering with them is also strategically designed to increase that role at this level, because we have a very tough time getting kids at 12U to be a goalie because they never really enjoyed it at 10U if they did get a chance to try it. So
yeah, I think that's an absolutely critical point. I really feel like the key success factor of a program is that 10U goalie crew being developed and growing up with the program. So I think this rule is fantastic for that reason. I'm wondering if the rule should be that there's possession outside of the 8. And then once that occurs, then people have free movement. Because in that vein, we're kind of going along with the idea of not having the goalie put the ball up the middle. We want them to go up the sides. And then it's a fairly clear definition, I think, that when someone is possessing the ball outside of, well, I guess the 10U field is not that well marked, but just trying to think out loud on that.
And also, this is an option. Like, it's not like you have to clear it to someone who's inside the 8. That's an option. So she gets a free clear. She can't be sharked or any of that stuff. It's meant to give her that opportunity. And with this rule that we've re-implemented following the USL, some of the feedback we got from last season was, how many minutes does it take for the team to be like, oh, man, and then they drag their feet and sticks up to the center to draw, and like minutes later, you've now done another draw, and it's only a 40-minute game. So a lot of time's wasted going back to the center to do the draw. So that on top of this is just much more developmental for our 10Us. So I'm glad everybody agrees that we want to keep it this way. So we'll keep looking into this to make sure we iron it all out, and we do have the ability to modify it to make sense for us. So if anybody has really specific bullet points, text and we will move on.
Hey, Aaron, I don't know if this is appropriate time to mention this, but because we're talking about goalies so much, this is a good discussion for when we're in stage 5 and everything in terms of this rule. But what are clubs going to do about shared goalie equipment? So specifically at 10U, usually that's everyone takes their turn playing goalie, and I don't know if you have time for this conversation or not, but I was just wondering if clubs have talked about that, if we're still if we're still really trying to disinfect and all of that. I just think this one's keeping me awake at night. Shared goalie equipment, because really on the girls' side, we're really, in lacrosse in general, we're really lucky that, it's different than football where you're touching the ball, or, we don't touch the ball. And I think it's going to be great for telling the kids they can't pick up the ball with their hand. They got to always use their stick. It's going to help us. But the shared goalie equipment situation, goalie equipment is just so expensive. So
do you want me to answer that, Aaron?
Yes.
So basically what I've been seeing in many of the US lacrosse calls with some of the tournament operators and some of the equipment people, not only do we have the new rule that Aaron's going to talk about for the chest protectors for goalies, we have your question, Kelly, and there is some disinfecting practices that you can use between goalies sharing equipment. But we're also going to talk later, do you guys want to see shooting nets collapse? Do you want to have, the option to play with an extra player? All those things need to be on the table because, we want to play. And so I think, those options need to be written into our rule sheets. So we're getting there, almost there.
Great, thank you.
All right, so what other types of trainings would you guys like to see from us? What format? Virtual, in person, at play day? So one idea I had was have a 10U only rules interpretation webinar, which includes our modifications, where we do a Zoom meeting and we go over the rules and get a chance to discuss them and clarify things. And it doesn't have to be long, but it can be a little bit more intimate. So we want to know if you guys want to have things like that, and what other ideas you might have that we could help facilitate as far as training and education. They would be optional.
sounds like they're good with what we have.
I'll chime in
Well,
that
there you go.
Oh,
sorry.
Hello? So we have our equipment requirements. The eyewear standard is going to be the same as we had for 2020. We're following the NFHS rule until 2024. So the SEI standard is still in place as it was last season for the coming season. It needs to be certified. It's better if it has the stamp, but it might not. I know that any new models will all have the stamp, or it's not on the list. So we need you to make sure that your parents know at the time that that's a requirement, so you could send that out as soon as possible, and so that nothing's really changed for that going forward. But this year, coming January, for both boys and girls, goalkeepers will be required to wear the new standard of chest protector, which is Comotio Cordis. And I don't know if you all were aware of this new standard. This is news to you.
No, it's not.
Okay, good. Yeah, I know I did mention it in my slides last season, but it is a new expense, either for you as a club or for your players, and they need to know exactly which ones to have.
So is the equipment itself, is this new chest protector something that's only now becoming available? Like we got an equipment grant last year with a bunch of new goalie gear. Would I expect that that chest protector was compliant with this?
Well, I would sure hope so, but I can't guarantee that. But what you would want to do is look for this tag in the graphic that says SEI certified and meets NOCSI standard. So you could also look at what it's called and go to the SEI website and see if it's on. I guess it's also on US Lacrosse. There's a list, and you will be able to find that. Yeah, SEInet.org. Search and type. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Aaron, I just wanted to bring up something that occurred for the Coyotes this season, which kind of surprised me. And other clubs may see this or not. My daughter had a very serious concussion. She was 10 years old last summer that lasted about 6 months. So I bought her a helmet for the season, and being the club leader and the coach, I was like, I'm going to get so many questions. So I sent out, and I had my older daughter wear it kind of to support her as well. I sent out an email that said, you know, goggles are the standard, helmets are an option. This is why I'm specifically doing it. You know, the US Lacrosse still is kind of debating the benefits of both. If you are interested, Slingit's going to be giving, you know, a 15% discount, whatever. We had 105 orders for helmets. And I had so many parents saying to me, I am actually signing up my younger daughter now because of helmets. Like the feedback from parents was so supportive. It was out of control. Now I also got really negative comments from coaches and stuff. And as someone who played Division I lacrosse, you know, I never thought I would be putting my daughters in helmets. But I've kind of gone back and forth and really, you know, and now having a child who's had a very serious concussion, saying, you know, it's the coaching that changes the game. It's not the helmets. So I just wanted to throw it out there that like when people start playing the Coyotes, you're going to see that most of the girls are in helmets now. And I know some people feel that the game gets rougher with helmets. I used to be one of those people. I don't. I think it's rough, again, based on the coaching and the reffing, not the helmets. But I just wanted to throw it out there because this is something that keeps circling back. And as you see other teams have it. So I just wanted to let you guys know what we experienced this spring.
Thank you for sharing that, Kim. I think it's really, really good information. I probably should have put on the optional equipment, but I wanted to just definitely make sure you guys knew which ones were required. But I do understand, and you are not alone in feeling that way. And the game is just grown so much, so the needs of the game are different than maybe when we were playing a long time ago. So it is different for everyone, their perspective, but I think safety is important, and there's always a different why and how concussions occur. And I do know that US Lacrosse is continuing to do their research, and I think the first wave of data should be ready within the year or two. So let's look forward to that.
Hey, Kim, are you guys, are the clubs wanting to see something from the NCJLA about helmets? Is that?
I'm saying that just because, first of all, I kept getting what kind of helmets, what's okay, what's not okay. It's more like you're going to probably need to have some, just like you have the standardized, what you need for goggles. I think you should have something about helmets. And I think obviously, whether it's valid or not, I think obviously after you've experienced a child with a concussion, you're in kind of a different world. But if you haven't, there's a lot of fear out there of parents. And then as we're trying to grow the game of lacrosse, it's just something that we have to be aware of. It's like, why aren't people signing up? It's expense, right? Is a big one. By the way, protective gear does not help in the cost of that. So for clubs, I was really lucky as we got all of these 105 orders. Sling It put their discount to 20% off. So it's just but of course we received them like the week that COVID hit. So because this all happened really quickly. So, planning ahead, equipment, all these things, I'm bringing it up because it's not going to go away. And, we may want to be a little more strategic about, clubs maybe want to be more strategic about equipment planning and all these things, especially as like, why aren't, I'm seeing my girls' numbers exploding at my club versus our boys' numbers. But, in general, what's holding people back from signing up their girls to lacrosse? I don't know. It's just, I'm throwing it out there just as another point that is circling, and I don't think it's going to go away for a while.
Thanks, Kim. All right, our next slide is some feedback we got this season was, why do we typically see more male coaches on the sidelines than females, and concerning the girls games? What suggestions do you have? I have some suggestions that I came up with, but I want to hear from you guys first and see what you guys have to say without me prompting anything. So what suggestions do you have for recruiting more females to join your club's coaching staff?
I can speak to what I do for fall ball. Fall ball, I try not to coach as much, and I try to work the sidelines of the parents hanging around and lingering. We have more lingers in fall ball than we have in spring, right? So I try to introduce myself, and I often within these conversations, they say, oh, I played in college. And then I just do my sales pitch of like, you got to come out, you got to come join me, that kind of stuff. So I think it's relationship based. I think it's really hard. I think for some reason, AYSO can get women and moms to coach that have never played soccer before, but lacrosse seems more intimidating. And I keep saying, so that maybe it's a marketing campaign. If you can coach AYSO, you can coach lacrosse.
I mean, as a coach of multiple sports, I did not ever see a lacrosse game until my daughter said she wanted to play lacrosse. And for the whole first season, I just had a coach telling me to throw a ball this way and that. And I just kind of gradually was eased into becoming a coach. And I think that mentorship is very critical. And although I'm totally in favor of the 7v7 rookie concept, that was my one concern about that, is getting a coach who has confidence to run a rookie team with a small group versus being part of a larger team with an experienced coaching crew.
So is your concern isolating that coach by themselves with a rookie group and a rookie coach, or that without a mentor?
What I would say is
Or
that
is it
it's very difficult to onboard new coaches at the young level because a lot of parents don't have lacrosse experience. I think the success we've had has been onboarding people who've never played lacrosse into coaching lacrosse confidently after 5 years of experience, type of a thing. So I think my point is to mentor the not necessarily lacrosse playing coaches to become successful. And I think we identify those people by seeing whether they are coaching soccer or basketball or another sport. And so that's basically how I got roped in, because I was coaching both boys basketball and girls soccer. And I was very reluctant initially because it was so foreign to me. I don't feel confident teaching something I've never even seen one single game in. And so it was a very gradual process to kind of develop that confidence over time.
Anybody else? So here's some staff suggestions for new programs. Let the females in your community know that they're needed and wanted. Solicit your former players or from local high schools and colleges and definitely pay them. So develop a budget for paying coaches. Solicit moms, aunts, sisters, and neighbors. So like what Kim said, definitely spot on. Like it's good to mingle and get to know people in a less intimidating way, or during fall ball, and just sort of feel your way through your membership. And then offer to and provide education or other incentives, like, you know, showcase that you're going to get team swag and all sorts of as many good talking points as possible. But you do have to, it's a little bit of work to spread it out, just like recruiting our officials. Some other feedback for established programs would be to teach current female players how to coach. So your oldest, most experienced 14 new players, give them more responsibilities within their team or the years below them. Have your mentor coaches or your experienced coaches teach the players coaching skills and share them, and have them help with your younger teams. So looking for and fostering leaders within your own group that you have, and of course also offering incentives to those people. People always like to get stuff.
Speaking of incentives, I think we're going to try this next year, and I don't know if other clubs have, is our schools do this sometimes, is a bounty kind of, so for these young 20-something-old coaches, if they bring us another coach, you know, we would give them a couple $100, you know, finder's fee kind of thing.
I have another slide. So there's a really good article from PCA. It's kind of just a nice little list of strategies and some quotes. So I just wanted to show you this, and there's a link. It's pretty easy to find, but there's a link embedded, I believe, right here where it says PCA. But it does mention a lot of things that you guys brought up. So mentorship, and I really love the co-coaching option. So, you know, find those two best friends kids on the team and maybe their moms are best friends too, and they can help each other out and maybe take turns the load. But targeting, when you're targeting moms that maybe have a bunch of other kids at home, or they're driving kids to other sports or dance lessons that they want to be involved, but they can't commit as much time. So having maybe some lax rules with that, or having them reduce time commitment. So I thought these were some really good feedbacks that highlighted how to help get moms to join the coaching crew.
Erin, I think we'll talk more about this when we start those conversations about diversity that we talked about earlier today. I think this needs to be part of the conversation just for the girls' side. So thanks for bringing it up.
Okay. So here we've got some possible modifications to meet social distancing and the return to play. So we're looking to revamp the pre-game protocols to add in anything that would be needed to mitigate COVID-19. And another thing would be the administration of the draw, maybe eliminating it and just starting with, possession or doing goalie clears. Also implementing small-sided play for girls high school or other ages that don't typically play 7v7. Is there any club feedback on possible modifications that we would need to do to meet social distancing, reducing, but also at the same time having play within the league, if this happens to happen like in next spring?
I'll just say that I'm not in favor of eliminating the draw. I think once we start running around on the field, the germs are already out. So, why change up the game? I don't think it's necessary. I don't know how you guys feel, or what you're hearing from your public health or your Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I think, if there does have to be, I agree with you, not changing the game should be a priority, with the exception of, the smaller sides. If it does have to be less players, which means less spectators, and we really have to control the number of people that are at a field, then that might make sense. But actual game play, outside of maybe shortening down the players, would be something that's agreeable.
Okay.
Hey, Matt. Kelly, you want to chime in about your goalie fears? So far, they've just say, take the helmet off at halftime, make sure the halftime is extended so you can disinfect the inside of it with Lysol spray, and then once you have your 10-minute halftime, put the helmet back on. And I'm like, well, some people already do that because they're paranoid about lice. So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but goalie ideas are welcome because there's a lot of discussion about it.
One goalie per game. Don't switch at halftime or anything like that.
Yeah. How do you guys
I guess it would depend on how many games are played, right? Like I agree with the one goalie per game. I mean, my daughter's a goalie, but we bought her own equipment. We've always bought her own equipment because of our fear of lice, and we've had it so much that I'm like, no, you get your own stuff. But I guess it would depend on how many games are being played or potentially being played in one day. If you do one goalie per game, what disinfectant is going to be provided to disinfect that goalie gear, and how long does it need to wait before the next goalie puts it on? So how much time between each game is going to be given to disinfect? I guess that would be something that I would personally be concerned about for our goalies.
I agree, Angela. I have a huge concern about this, and I'm I myself am high risk with type 1 diabetic, so I just feel for those kids that are putting on equipment that is shared, especially like a face mask. So I'm in favor of the shooting nets. I think that's a great idea, and I see the challenge with that is if you have a goalie that wants to play, you want to make sure they have the experience. So one goalie per game could work, but I mean, I'm wondering if some of these programs that have scholarships for equipment, would it be possible to get extra goalie equipment on a scholarship level if we wanted to do the goalies? But I do think the shooting nets, depending on what phase we are in, might be a nice modification if we need it.
That's a good idea. Actually, at the league level, we probably could look at doing that, some goalie helmet grants or something of that nature. We had some questions about the Olympic format. So yes, I saw a copy of the rules for Olympic format. It's a pretty fast game, but they still have goalies in it. If you remember speed lacrosse, there's been some discussion of using those rules because there's no goalies in speed lacrosse. And I mean, I still think it's fun, but when I think of what the real, what the full game is, it's sad to see goalies go away just because we don't have enough equipment for, people to have their own helmet. So. Well, I get asked about these game rule modifications on a daily basis. So if you guys are thinking about things that might work for your club or for your team in order for us to have, a small-sided game, I'd love to hear them because, we're getting asked by programs in Washington and Colorado and Southern California. And, we really want to give you some rules that allow you to go to your public health, or not your public health, but your Parks and Rec and say, hey, these are the things we're going to do so that, they certify you that you can use the fields. I know there is one county that has an advisory board that is reviewing camp plans and approving permits based off of their safety plan. So, if you think of something that might help with this, definitely send it along.
Well, that was the last slide. So the floor is open to anyone else that has anything to add. Maybe we left something off. If you have a question that we didn't cover, you can let us know. And thank you for all of your feedback, both in within the workshop and also all of your great comments on the chat. Very helpful. And we'll be working all summer long to sure. Yes, Angela, if you'd like to, if you feel it's a good time.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify, because it's been a while since I've actually officiated a lacrosse game. I wanted to clarify in regards to what it meant by U.S. lacrosse in regards to uncontested. And so I just want you all to know that USL, what they considered an uncontested clear, is that it's played 1v1 and no one's on the goalie. It's just basically your defender with your attacker and no one's defending the goalie. It has nothing to do with 8 meter. It has nothing to do with except getting the pass. It's just there's no one guarding the goalie and everyone's 1v1. So I just want you all to know that's what U.S. Lacrosse interprets as uncontested. So that way you're more informed. Whatever you decide, whatever you discuss is great. Whatever works for you guys at 10U, but I do want you to know what uncontested meant for USL. So.
Hey, Aaron, what's the plan for like the COVID-19? Like, are you guys going to be sending all that out to us? And as a club, are we going to be certifying our teams once we start play? Like, are you guys going to be obviously putting all that stuff together for us?
Yes.
Yeah. We sent a draft of our, like game protocols, pre-event protocols, club admin tasks. We packaged that all up last week, and the return to play advisory group for US Lacrosse is looking over it. There's a couple other programs. I believe the other one is True Lacrosse that submitted one to be reviewed. So, but those particular details are in the works. So.
And then will you guys be able to trace basically players? So like if we play Pleasanton and something happens, we'll be able to be notified as a club?
So basically what we've been seeing is that the league would not be responsible for tracing players. We'd be responsible for turning over attendance. So that roster submission that we talked about in the league session, those jersey numbers, names, who's actually on your team is really important when it comes to COVID-19, because if I say, okay, I'll just pick on Angela. Angela Cherry was your ref for your 10U Walnut Creek game on, June 12th. And she has, she's reported that she's had a COVID-19 positive test. So everybody at your game, we need to turn over their name to the contract tracer for Contra Costa County. And so that would be the responsibility of the league, and then ultimately passed on to the club, that they send that information to the contract tracer for that county, and then the county public tracer is the person that handles it. The league wouldn't be responsible for informing people and notifications, just turning over records for them to do their job. Does that answer?
You guys will have all that stuff in the guidelines.
Yeah.
As far as, are you guys going to have like lawyers and stuff look at it for like HIPAA laws and all that stuff too? Or are you going to make that?
Absolutely. The lawyers for US Lacrosse approved the COVID waiver that's on the website, or, on the US Lacrosse Return to Play website. And I also posted the link on our COVID-19 page. So that waiver has already been approved by lawyers to be used. It's industry standard and covers everything that you would need. Everything else that we've discussed in our protocols about, screening, questions, recording, health information, the lawyers are looking over that right now. And we're also looking at a HIPAA release for the clubs to use if they do collect that information. So lots of lawyers involved and trying to keep it very simple for us. So.
And then last question, have you guys come across, I know we use the US Lacrosse insurance, but has any clubs come to you guys as far as like secondary insurance for registrations? So if this happens again, that our members are covered?
Yes. We're actually looking at a different payment structure where there's like a league registration fee where, you pay a small fee to,
Right.
have your team listed. And then we wait till we get closer to the actual season and we know it's going to happen before you pay that full team registration fee. Because the model now is we collect all this money up front and then we, disperse it out and pay, the event fees and the officials and all those items. So we are looking to adjust that. And then we are also looking to give the club's guidance on those payment and refund practices so that you guys aren't caught in this situation again. In terms of insurance, there has been discussion with some of the, larger tournament operators trying to get, that like travel insurance where like, you're going to go to Florida and there's a hurricane and get that covered. So far, I haven't seen anybody that's been able to get infectious disease coverage of that nature. So I don't think we're in that situation where we would have everything refunded. It'd definitely be on us to make sure we're collecting money in increments. so that we don't lose out on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Hopefully, maybe, that is a market if you know somebody in the insurance company.
Well, I know, I'm trying to find out more information, but I know a couple other like soccer clubs are starting to offer that for parents.
Yeah. At the individual level, yes, you can purchase it, but for a club or a large organization, I haven't seen anybody that's been able to get secondary.
But will you guys sponsor, like, or are you gonna make the clubs go find all that stuff, or will you guys sponsor something of that nature as far as
We're
insurance?
looking for that, especially since this safety manager and HIPAA stuff, there might be a need or want for clubs to get a little bit more coverage. Bollinger has been very upfront that they're willing to work with us on making those packages. So, if you guys have a list of like checklists of things that you want in that insurance package for your parents, please send it, because that would help us in our negotiations with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Laura, there was a question from Eric from Folsom. Did you say that a resource?
Yeah, let me, hold on, Eric. So if you're on the NCJLA website, there is a new tab at the top called the COVID-19 resources page. I'm putting the link in the chat right now. On that page are some of the things that I've already collected, and there is the CDC guidance for disinfecting and cleaning. And that would probably be your best resource for deciding what you're going to have to clean and how.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep, no problem. If you guys have any questions, like I've been attending meetings for the past 4 weeks, at least 3 times a week, regarding COVID-19 and reopening. If there's something specific that you're looking for, shoot me an email. I probably can send it to you. Lots of them are in draft format, but I'm happy to share that with you guys.
Any other questions or comments?
I think that's it.
Okay. Thanks everyone for being on the call today.